This is Retro Rambling, an audio podcast discussion about all things retro, with your host, Cyrus Martin.
Welcome back, everybody. It is me, Cyrus, and I'm back with my good buddy, my most awesomest friend, Eugene Stevens. Eugene, how are you?
I'm good, even though you can't spell my last name correctly.
I know. Shut up. And the show's over. Apparently, it looks like I'm losing Eugene. I don't know what happened there.
I know. Bye, everyone.
We were talking about this before the show because I put his name. I always spell it wrong with the V instead of the PH, and I always think it's the other way, so I keep screwing it up. This has been going on for years. I've never been able to get that name right.
That's all right. I'm 45 years old, and I still can't apparently spell believe correctly.
You know,
I keep switching the letters around, and it just will not stick.
You know what my brother told me about that word? A way that that you'll remember how to spell that word correctly. He says, you have to lie if you want to believe, or something like that. And if you put L,
okay, I can remember that.
Yeah, you believe the lie.
Because I remember back in third, fourth grade, something like that, doing spelling tests. We were staying with my aunt for a little while, and she was helping me with spelling words. And the way I've always learned to spell beautiful is beautiful. And that has stuck with me until I'm this age. Like every time I see that word, that's how I think of it. So
we are simple creatures who need simple, I don't know. There's a thing here I'm trying to think of. Modern problems require modern solutions.
Modern solutions, absolutely, yeah.
Where were we? We left off where we were still talking, and I was like, man, there's so many things to talk about. And I was like, we didn't get back to this right away, so I actually lost my show notes, and you were like, oh, and you just started sending me stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's good stuff. That's what we're going to talk about. So let's just jump in, sort of stuff that we have been having fun with, stuff that we've seen this recently, I guess, things that we've had going on, and we'll just start off with Dungeons and Dragons. So I know that you're a big fan of board games. My brother is also a huge fan of board games. He plays Dungeons and Dragons all the time, actually. I really have never been a big Dungeons and Dragons guy, but I always loved the cartoon, and I loved that movie we just watched. What were your thoughts going into that movie, and then what did you think about it coming out of it?
Okay, let me start off by saying, yes, I love board games. I do love super involved board games as well. That being said, Dungeons and Dragons is one of my geeky blind spots. I have never actually played Dungeons and Dragons. I have been invited to play multiple times, and I just never have. I want to. I really would like to get together with some friends and maybe do it for a weekend or something like that. I think that would be fun. But no, I've never actually sat down and played Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, I've played a lot of role-playing games and stuff that are, very much heavily influenced by Dungeons and Dragons. Along the same lines of that, I actually just recently read a biography about the creator of it, Guy Gygax, and man, it was number one. It was an awesome biography because it was told more like a story than just than just kind of reading it out as to what was going on or whatever. Like most really creative people, he had some interesting and hardship things happen in his life. But anyway, so if you ever get a chance to read that book, I'll have to look up the title for it here in just a second. Share that. Definitely give that a shot. That being said, yes, I also watched the cartoon back in the 80s, and I know of Dungeons and Dragons and everything. So when I saw the trailer for this thing, I thought, are we actually going to get a decent Dungeons and Dragons movie? Like, this looks like it's a lot of fun. And I was totally planning on going to see it. And then one of my boys asked me, they saw the trailer for it, and was like, hey, Dad, would you take us to see this? And I thought, well, let me find out, make sure there's nothing in it that would be, they're 11 years old. So they're at the stage where I'm having to kind of check to see, what all was going on. And everyone was like, oh no, they'd have a blast at it. So we all went and saw it, and I enjoyed it from start to finish. I absolutely loved it. I think I've heard a lot of people, a lot of critiques of it, all positive, but and I have to agree with it. Is I think the reason why the movie works so well is that it doesn't overly take itself seriously, but it definitely treats everything in that world as being real. It's not like, oh hey, look, there's a bear with the head of an owl. Wink, wink. That's a thing. It's literally like, no, that's an owl bear. It's just a thing that exists in this world. But the fact that it's a heist movie, which is almost always fun as long as it's done well, just made it fantastic. I like I said, I loved it from start to finish. Walking out of it, I thought, number one, I went and saw it well over a month after it came out in a smaller theater on a Sunday morning. Sunday relative. It was the first showing of the day, so I think it was around noon or whatever. The theater was still almost sold out. Even being just a small theater, it was still almost sold out. This movie is doing really well. And I would love to see more movies done like this. I don't know. I would not mind seeing some of these characters come back, but I'm not dead set on let's see the continuing, adventures of this particular group. I'd almost rather see them get together additional groups and go through and do different stories, and maybe occasionally we run across some of our heroes from this story. They show up for a few minutes or whatever, and cross paths. But getting more in this world, absolutely, I would love to see more of this stuff. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't have expectations. I went into the movie, and Manon was excited about it, so I was like, let's check it out. We went, me and my daughter went, and we're all together, and it starts up, and it's man, the way it starts, it's and I'm not going to get into spoiler territory here, but I am going to kind of give you an idea what to expect from things in the movie. So if you don't want to hear about this movie, be aware of that. Anybody listening. Obviously, Eugene, you don't need to worry about spoilers.
I'm in my ears now.
Yes, you're like, spoiler, I've already... Anyway, so yeah, I saw the movie. The beginning of the movie seemed... I was a little concerned, I'll say that. Because the movie starts off, and it's a little bit... It's very lighthearted, kind of. It's kind of like a little cheesy, the way it starts. But it doesn't take very long before you start to get, it's like getting into a swimming pool. It takes a second, but then you're like, okay, I'm getting a feel for things here, getting a feel for this world and how this story is going to be told. And then you start to really appreciate the amount of detail that is in this movie, from references to things to the CGI effects, which were astonishingly good. Actually, I was very impressed.
They were.
Yeah. No, you're right. They're not taking the story too seriously, but it's not, break the fourth wall, stare at the camera, and wink stuff. It's not that far, but it is a little bit lighthearted, a little bit cheesy, and deliberately, like, there's all these references to things from Dungeons and Dragons and from video games in general, from like RPGs that people have played, that it's like really cool that they thought to put this detail. And a lot of the stuff is not like you said, they're not like prop it up in front of the camera and make a big deal, point at it and go, look what we did. It's not like that. It's like this little stuff that happens that you have to actually kind of pay attention to. And you go back and watch the movie, like I'm sure if I see it again, I'm going to find all kinds of stuff that I missed the first time. But there's so many references to things and so many just really interesting ways that they decided to tell this story the way they did. About halfway into the movie, I just was having a great time. There's some really funny stuff. There's some really cool stuff too. And by the end of the movie, I was like, man, I hope there's a sequel to this because I really am curious to see what happens with all the characters. And again, I had no expectations. I went into this, they made a Dungeons and Dragons movie like, I don't know, maybe like 20 years ago. And it had, like Jeremy Irons was in it. Yeah. So I was kind of like, okay, we'll see what happens here. And that's why when the movie started the way it did, I was a little bit like, uh-oh. I was like, uh-oh. But then it got good. And I liked the way they decided to tell the story. I think that one of the things that I thought when I got out of the theater was the first showing of this movie, like the first time I've seen this movie, which I've only seen it once. I'm kind of like, it's kind of jarring because you don't know what to expect, and you got to get used to it. But I think the way they decided to tell the story works for multiple viewings. Because I think if you already know what to expect, you're going to have a great time the whole time you see this the second time you watch it. So I think, I mean, maybe I'm overthinking that, but it seems like they're pretty smart. Like they were thinking like, hey, the Dungeons and Dragons people are super nerds. they're gonna pick this thing apart. Let's make it for them, and that so that like they can watch this, and the second time they watch it, they're just gonna jump right in, and it's not like, oh, we've got to explain Dungeons and Dragons to the normies, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't bother. It's just like, go. And I like that. I really like the movie. We got to do the surveys with the little tablets after the movie. They asked us if we would answer some questions and stuff. And so all three of us were very happy to do that because we're trying to be like, hey, anything we can do to help this movie. I mean, because it's obviously there's a huge microscope on this movie. Like they're trying to figure out, is there an audience? What's the audience going to think? What do they think about the way we're doing this? The actors? There's a lot of stuff going on there that they're very curious about. And this movie did way better than I think they expected. So that's a good thing. And that's good to see movies doing good right now. Like this almost like started a trend. Like every movie that's come out since this has been doing well, not every movie, but like it's been good. Like theaters are doing well again, and movies are selling like crazy. So I'm very happy
and
about
now
that.
we have another writer strike.
And now we have another, just in time for movies to come back. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're listening to this, we hope.
A couple quick things I just wanted to throw in there real quick. I think part of the reason why this movie works so well is because it is lighthearted. Everyone I talk to that plays Dungeons and Dragons, especially those I know that are pretty consistent players, are like, yeah, we play it to have fun. Like, we laugh and have fun, while we're doing this or whatever. So if it had taken itself too seriously, I think it would have been a turnoff to them. But for them to see, oh no, they get what a session's like. It's, the running joke is always, you walk into a small dark room, you can't hardly see anything, and someone goes, I cast fireball. It's like, no, you don't understand. You're in a small room. You're going to kill I cast fireball. Just like, well, fine. Let's just see if you kill everyone. Go for it, dude. I know some people who actively are like, oh yeah, I actively like poke at the dungeon master. Like that's the whole reason I'm there, is to try to screw with their game. And I think there's a lot of that in that community. So I think that's one of the reasons I think people took to it so well. You were talking about it. So for example, the scene in the where they're bringing back, and this is in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away, where they're bringing back the dead to ask a question.
Yeah,
that was played so well because I thought, okay, well, this is kind of a quick side gag, and they did it multiple times, but they did it just enough that it wasn't overly troublesome. It's not like, okay, here we go again, to the point it was like, wow, again, like it was, they did it just right. It hit just right. It was just funny enough. And you kind of knew what was going to happen at the end of that scene, and yet they still did. You're like, all right, cool. I'm glad we left where we left. But so real quick, so one of the things you said you've only seen it once. I've only seen it once as well. Did you notice? Did you notice the party that they almost saved, but ended up not saving because they figured
Absolutely.
out, oh, something's wrong, so they moved on?
Well, this is I don't know if is this a spoiler territory here or is it?
This is an Easter egg territory.
Yeah, I don't think it's spoiling anything to talk about it, to just mention it. It's actually something people will want to watch and find for themselves. I think
Yeah.
people have talked about this a lot. So
I had not heard this. And so when I watched it, it was specifically the kid with the helmet that had the horns, and I went, "Oh my God, it's the kids from the original Dungeons and Dragons cartoon." That by itself, the fact that it wasn't like a big thing, it was just kind of very quick. I'm just like, that's fantastic that y'all thought to put that in here.
it is really cool. It is really cool. And
So,
again, in a sequel, you could continue that gag. I mean, there's things you can do that to harken back to the old cartoon, and you could even go back to some of the Dungeons and Dragons like video game stuff. What would be funny as hell, I don't know if it's possible. I need to mention something that my brother had brought up. He had talked about how a lot of the resurgence and popularity of Dungeons and Dragons has been because of Stranger Things, because of everything that's gone on with that show. And I was like, man, talk about a great opportunity for a funny gag. If you could do some Stranger Things reference.
if they did a reference, or even if they had some of the kids that were in there, if they showed up as like a group that they stumble upon or something, I'm telling you, Vin Diesel would probably do a movie for free if he could be in it, because he's a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan. And apparently, well, at least according to her, what's her name that was in the movie that does all the Fast and Furious stuff with him. Apparently, he's like
Michelle Rodriguez.
He's extremely happy that she's in it, but he's also jealous as all hell.
I bet he would work his way into a sequel. I bet they would figure out how to do that. He could be.
I was talking to someone. I'm like, especially if they could get him, if they told him, "Hey, we want you to just do, a small role, and you get to play your Dungeons and Dragons character." I bet he'd show up on the first day and be like, "All right, I'm here. You don't even have to pay me. I'm ready."
Without
he's such a nut about it.
Without spoiling anything, can you imagine if he played her new love interest?
Oh my God,
Like,
that would be hilarious.
You know what would have to happen for that? I'm not going to say like how that would have to work,
yes,
but that would be hilarious. That would be
hilarious.
So yeah, what a great movie, it was fun. It was a good time. I think it would be a good movie to own, because you could probably watch it, throw it on, let the kids watch it again, and they would have a good time watching it. It's one of those multiple view movies. I think it's actually pretty,
I agree.
Pretty good. So yeah, that's that. I haven't seen too many new movies that are out, but I definitely am trying to. My daughter finally watched Top Gun with me last night, the new Top Gun.
Oh,
yeah. And my daughter was in the Air Force. So we had some very interesting discussions about, like, she was like, I was like, hey, we had some time, and I'm like, hey, you want to watch Top Gun? I've been trying to get her to watch it for a while. And she's like, I guess. She didn't know what to expect, She's like, Top Gun. But of course it turned out to be really good. And she was like, oh man, it was so good. She's like, I can't believe how awesome that movie was. And, she started talking about like what it was like when she was in the Air Force, and her office was, she had a big window where she could see all these planes taxi past her all the time, like all these jets and stuff. And she's like, it was so awesome, and she would see, like, we're watching the movie, and she'd every once in a while a different jet would come on the screen, and she'd be like, I know that one, that's one I used to see that one go past my office every day. I was like,
oh, nice.
It was pretty fun. Movies are something that I think that people can be very critical of movies a lot. They can just really focus in on everything that they want to pick apart and, oh, this should have been done better. That should have been done better. I didn't approve of this thing that happened or this decision. But, movies are supposed to be an escape from all the nonsense that's going on. So it's so nice to find good movies that you can just watch and enjoy and share with people and share the stuff that you like about them. I know that's a controversial thing to do these days, but
yeah.
Did you see them? Did we talked about the Mario movie already, or did we?
We did not talk about the Mario movie.
Okay. Well, have you seen it?
I have twin 11-year-old boys. Yes, I have seen the Mario movie.
Okay, I have not seen it, but I am.
You have not? Okay,
no, but I haven't. Not yet. This is a shame that I carry with me. Maybe by the time people hear, this one, I'll have actually seen it. What do you think? Tell me your thoughts. What's up?
I have heard. Man, I've heard some things that I'm just like, I totally 100% disagree with everything you're saying. I had a blast watching this movie. The thing I liked most about it is the fact that, they use some of I'll say assets. They use some of the assets from the Mario universe, maybe in a slightly different way than how they actually work in the games or whatever. But I mean, that's fine. One of the things I really liked about the movie is the fact that, they didn't have to really make up anything really. Like there's enough stuff in the different Mario games that they're able to pull from. So if they're like, well, we need something that would, act like this, they went and found that thing in the Mario universe and used it. They didn't, it's not like we didn't have any new characters walking around. It's like, well, I don't know who that is. That's never been in any of the games or anything. I really liked that. Does the music come in a lot from, all the different music come in, a lot as the game? Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that's what you're wanting. It is a kids movie, but I was talking to some of my friends and they agreed. They're like, yeah, the more anyone can just watch it and enjoy it as a movie. It's an Illumination movie, so it's the same company that does Despicable Me and the Minions and stuff like that. The first one of those movies I thought was okay. I'm not really a Minions fan by any means, but it was fun. It was a fun watch. I know everyone was kind of giving Chris Pratt, crap about it in the beginning of the, when everything first started happening and stuff. But no, I thought the voice acting was great. In fact, the stuff that has come out of it from Jack Black's portrayal of Bowser is I'm loving it. I love the song that he did is hilarious. It's just it's got so much. It's number one, it's making crap tons of money, but it's got so much positive momentum behind it. Like I said, I enjoyed it. The boys, I asked the boys, I was like, well, which do you want to go see first? You want to go see Mario? You want to go see Dungeons and Dragons? And they picked Mario. I'm like, that's fine. I definitely wanted to go see it as well. And I had a blast watching it the whole time. I thought I laughed, multiple times at it, different things, and I'd see something. I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember that from this game, or however they're doing something. It's got a good soundtrack to it, along with Jack Black's Peaches song that apparently is just like freaking taken over. I'll be interested to see. It's technically now eligible for best original song from a movie. Because they actually released it and everything. So who knows if it'll actually show up at the Academy Awards next year. But if it does, I mean, South Park, Blame Canada was nominated a year. So why not Jack Black singing about peaches? So
that's true. It's a good point. Let me ask you this. How does it compare to the older Super Mario Brothers movie with Bob Hoskins?
Okay, so here's a fun thing. So I did a Ghostbusters event yesterday.
Yeah.
And one of my Ghostbusters, he makes independent movies. He is a writer and director and everything else. And he actually really loves the original Mario Brothers movie. There's another guy in our group. He's a lot younger. He's late 20s, early 30s. And for whatever reason, he loves that movie as well. I'm on the opposite end. I can't. We started having a conversation because I heard someone bring it up on a podcast one time. Um, do you remember the first time as a kid going to the movies and walking out of a movie and going and realizing that was not good? I think that was the Super Mario Brothers movie for me.
Oh,
I think
wow.
I walked out of that movie, and that's when I had a realization that not all movies are good. And in fact, even though I was looking forward to this thing, that was not a good movie.
Hmm.
Do
Yeah.
you remember what yours was?
Well, not really, because the first few movies that we saw at a drive-in theater,
Mm-hmm.
and we would go play on the playground. They had this playground right
Okay.
where like below the screen for the kids to play on. And so good movie or bad movie, we were on the playground. And I can remember paying more attention to movies like, that's how I saw The Temple of Doom.
Okay.
But that's also how I saw Romance in the Stone and Chattanooga Choo Choo.
Okay.
And I don't remember jack about Chattanooga Choo Choo, other than it had that guy that was he was the partner from the Naked Gun movies, the George Kennedy, I think is his name. That's the only thing I know about that movie because I didn't pay attention to it at all. So I was very
Yeah.
aware that there were movies that I didn't like, but also because like, growing up, the adults in the house would be watching these old westerns all the time on the TV, and I was not interested in the old westerns at all. I was like, okay, another black and white western, fantastic. Time to go play with my toys,
Right.
So, but as far as like a movie, it's kind of a separate thing. Like a movie that I wanted to like, that I thought would have been cool, that turned out to not be good. Oh man. So I'll have to think for a second about that.
Okay.
I don't know. Man.
Well, while you're there, because I'm comparing it to things like, I was super hyped to go see, for good or worse, the Transformers movie. Of course, that was
Yeah.
that was emotional damage right there. But like Ninja Turtles, I was hyped to go see Ninja Turtles, live action version of Ninja Turtles, and that movie is still freaking awesome to this day. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that came. Of course, like you said, Indiana Jones. You're watching some of these movies, and then you get a little bit later on, like to the '90s and stuff, and a lot of these movies are still decent and good. And then, like I said, you hit a couple of them that are just like, let's do a Mario movie, and it's like, okay, and it's like, why do they have these boots that are like, oh god, there's so much stuff in that movie. Anyway, so let's compare the two. There's no comparison. The original movie was garbage. Everyone who was in that movie said it was garbage.
Yeah. Yeah.
This thing was fantastic. I don't know, you've probably seen people posting memes and stuff online of all right, well now we need a Zelda movie, and then we need I can't even remember what all they've listed. I want to say I know they've said let's get a Zelda movie, let's get a Metroid movie,
Yeah.
maybe let's get a Donkey Kong movie, and then we're going to Avengers it up, and we're going to come around and do a Smash Brothers. And part of me is just like, you know what? Give it a shot. Let's go for it at this point.
I thought of the movie. I know what movie. The movie that the first movie I saw that I was really hyped about and ended up not being a good movie. But I actually still like this movie. It's
Okay.
just not a good movie, but I do like the movie because there's some performances that are amazing, and that's Masters of the Universe.
Oh, you know what? I can see that. I can see that.
Dude, like it's a terrible movie, but
Oh God, yes.
Skeletor is so badass.
Yes, he is.
I mean, Frank Langella is in the background images of this show as Skeletor because his performance as Skeletor is legendary. It's right up
Yes.
there with Raul Julia as M. Bison. It's fantastic. And he actually said that was his favorite role that he's ever played. Skeletor.
Really?
Yeah. And he took a
There's,
lot of heat for that.
There's I want to say, I don't think it's The Toys That Made Us. I think it's a different documentary. I think it's something like I Have the Power or Masters of the Universe. It's named something like that, and it's a documentary just about the rise and fall of He-Man. And of course, when it gets to the movie, that was kind of like that was right at the time they were having problems with making the toys and everything. So it's not like it killed. A lot of people think, oh well, that killed the He-Man toy line or whatever. It's like no, the He-Man toy line was already having problems. They were hoping the movie was going to kind of juice it and keep it going. But yeah, the interviews with Dolph Lundgren, he was so excited for that role, and you can just tell in his voice, he's like, I gave it everything I had, but we literally ran out of money at the very end. Like that last fight scene that doesn't make any sense at all. Like they had zero money. They were literally like, we just need you guys to do some stuff in front of a screen. I don't even know if we can pay you at this point to finish this thing off so that it's done. It's wrapped. And you can just tell the man, did everything he could with it, and it was hoping that it was going to be a good movie, and it wasn't. And it's like, yeah, you are not the problem with this movie, man. Don't carry that down on your shoulders. Like, you are not the issue with this. The issue was the story and apparently the production, because the production ran out of money doing God knows what. Trying to make this movie.
Honestly, if you think about it in that context, and knowing they didn't have money, knowing all the problems they had, it's amazing that anything good came out of that movie. And for them, for the actors to still put everything they had, and they did. I mean, like I said, Frank Langella says that's his favorite movie that he's ever done. And considering all of that, keep that in mind. And his performance is fantastic. Dolph Lundgren, I have no problem with him. I know some people don't like Dolph Lundgren because they're like, oh, he talks weird or whatever. I'm like, come on, man. Like, the dude's, are you telling me you don't like Rocky IV? You don't like, the stuff, the Expendable stuff he did? That Punisher movie he did was actually not bad. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
I agree.
I like Dolph Lundgren, and if you ever see him interviewed, the dude is awesome. That dude is a super nerd. Like, he's not people. He's totally misunderstood, like completely. Yeah, no, I like that movie, even though it is a terrible movie. I still like it, and the stuff that happens in Eternia before they go to Earth is obviously and it's sort of bookends, right? You have Earth in the middle. The Eternia stuff is my favorite parts of the movie, and I'm like, man, I just wish it was nothing but that.
I know, right?
But I understand they didn't have no money. They're just doing what they could. They're literally just shooting this out, because they, that you don't have to make a set if you just go out and shoot on the street.
Yeah, exactly.
But but yeah, that was a huge disappointment because we were so hyped on He-Man at that time, and I had very high expectations. When you're young, you don't know any better, so you think everything's going to be mind-blowing, especially if you've been to the theater and seen Star Wars. You've been to the theater and seen some of these movies that are just like Krull, stuff like that, and you're just like, holy crap. And then you expect that, right? So you go into a movie like this and you're like, what? Why are they? What? You just confused.
Why has He-Man got a gun running around shooting this laser rifle thing? Like, he should be being a badass with a sword. Yeah.
Who the hell is this character? Like, who is this Gwildor or whatever? You're like, you're like, what? Where's Orko? Where is Orko?
Exactly. Yeah.
Everyone was so confused. All the kids were just like, what are we seeing right now? Yeah. Skeletor was really cool though. Skeletor.
No, absolutely.
I was like, yeah. I mean, I would quote that dude, the lines that Skeletor has from that. I still quote those damn lines, I must possess all or I possess nothing, What a great movie. I mean, the movie's not good. Oh, Evelyn is awesome in that too. The actress that plays Evelyn is so good, but not everything is great, obviously. Yeah, I don't know. But you never know. You never know what you're going to get. And that's why going into a movie like Super Mario, or Dungeons and Dragons, you have all these thoughts. Like, do you let yourself get excited? Do you let yourself believe this could be good? Or do you just set yourself up for the possibility of disappointment? You know, I don't know what the right thing to do is. I think you just have to take it one movie at a time, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like, you were saying you haven't really seen a lot of things in the theater. One of the other movies that I saw not too long ago was, I saw the trailers for it last year, and I could not believe it was a real movie. Was Cocaine Bear.
Oh, yeah.
And my expectations was like, because I told some people, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go see Cocaine Bear this weekend, and they're like, what exactly are you expecting out of this movie? I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, I'm expecting the movie to be fun, and I'm expecting the movie to be pretty dumb, because I know the story that it's quote unquote based on. And, all of the killing and everything else is, all made up and everything. But still, like, I'm expecting to go in there and it just be a quote unquote lighthearted, horror type movie.
Yeah.
And it delivered on the bad, but unfortunately did not deliver on the fun. The fun is just not there. I don't know. I don't know if it's the writing, the directing, the story. It just,
how do you screw
it just
that
did
up?
not.
Like, I mean, what a hilarious premise. I'm sorry, darkly hilarious premise.
Yes.
But this crazy bear that's stoned on cocaine, running around doing crazy stuff. How is that not, like, it writes itself?
You would think so. I think it's because they were trying to make you kind of care about the characters, and it's like, I don't care about these people. Like, I want to watch the bear kill them all. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need the story of, oh, well, this is why the kid ran away and now we're trying to find him because, the mom is separated or, divorced or whatever. And they're needing a dad figure. And I don't need that. I need to watch a giant bear rip people apart. That's what I need to watch.
Snakes on a plane.
Exactly. Like, even though that movie is absolutely horrible, but you got exactly what you were expecting. You're like, there's a bunch of snakes on this motherfucking plane. So, like, let's throw it in there with something like Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea is a horrible movie, but
Right.
God, it's fun to watch.
It is fun, and it's because you know what you're getting. You're right, 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, I'm expecting it to be, like I said, fun and dumb, and like I said, it was more dumb than fun. So, but like I said, it's not like, it didn't meet that expectation. But I was just like, oh well, I went and chilled out and had popcorn and had a soda and watched a movie, and I was somewhat entertained for an hour and a half. That was the other thing. It was only an hour and a half. Thank God. If they're trying to make this movie 2 hours, I would have been like, oh, this needs to end. But
hour and a half.
Yeah,
not
like,
too bad. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny when you go back and you watch these old movies and you're like, my boys will ask me, how long is this? And I'm like, wow, it's only an hour and a half, or it's only an hour and 20 minutes. It's like, this is nothing, guys. We can blow through this, no problem. Because it seems like everything has to be an epic now.
Yeah.
But it's funny. So, like I said, I've taken my boys to both of these movies recently, and they tend to do the trailers, aimed towards the demographic that's going to watch it or whatever. And there's actually been trailers for several movies that me and my boys want to go see. The new Spider-Man coming out, the Across the Spider-Verse, looks fantastic. Of course, that first animated movie is so good. I'm actually interested. I'm actually going to go take them probably to go watch the new Transformers movie that comes out, even though I never saw that last one that came out the last night or whatever it was, because I'm so done with the Bayformer movies. But
I've heard a lot of people say they're very excited about the new Transformers movie.
It looks like it might be okay. I have no real high expectations for it, except for I'm like, this might be fun to sit and watch with my boys. That's honestly kind of why I'm looking forward to it. Is just like, oh, this will be fun to sit down with them and watch. So for another one, for example, we saw the trailer for Blue Beetle, and they're like, can we go watch it? And I was like, sure, yeah, we'll go watch it. It's not going to connect to anything in the DC universe, which you could debate whether that's good or bad. But
it's a
superhero movie, whatever.
Let's not debate that, because that's yeah, we don't need that heat.
We'd have to start the show over, and it would be another extended show.
Oh, the attention we would draw from that would not be good attention either.
So
Yeah.
Oh, I don't give two shits. Everyone there's if you were to look at the rainbow of emotions that people have for DC stuff, like
Yeah.
there's not enough colors to
Well,
begin to describe that rainbow.
I can't even keep up with what's happening. Like, you literally have to be like one of these guys on these shows that like my buddy Max, who does like nothing but talk about movies and stuff, to know what the hell's even going on at DC, because it's like
Oh yeah.
utter chaos behind the scenes. Like the people that predict stuff don't even know that they don't even know what's going on. They're like, oh wow, okay, I guess that's happening, and it's like, and
I think the only thing, and not everyone I've talked to said the exact same. Like everyone I've talked to has said the exact same thing. Am I excited to go see the Flash movie? Yeah, because I want to go see Michael Keaton be Batman again.
Exactly.
I honestly, if they put all of those scenes at the beginning of the movie, I would pay full price, sit down and watch 20 minutes, however long he's going to be Batman, and I'd get up and leave, and I'd be perfectly fine. I don't care one lick about Ezra Miller or and everything else that's happening. I mean, I guess the whole Supergirl thing could be interesting, but I'm there to see freaking Batman. That's what I'm there for. As long as I get Batman, I'm good.
I think we all kind of feel like, well, maybe not everybody, but I think, a lot of people feel like it should have just been a new Batman movie with Michael Keaton.
Yes.
Because everyone's like, yeah, I don't know anybody that has seen the trailers for that and not been excited about Michael Keaton. That's just cool. He looks good. He's he's older, yes, but they're playing into that with the story and everything. But they're doing it right, as far as I can tell. It looks like they're doing it right, and I'm like, damn, dude. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. Who doesn't love Michael Keaton as Batman? Like,
yep.
Let's do it. I hope there's some surprises. Like, if Michael Keaton is in this, wouldn't it be awesome? I mean, ridiculous, but like we saw the Spider-Man thing. So what if they figured out how to get other cameos, like Michelle Pfeiffer shows up or something,
Oh, that would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be cool? Like, I would be
Hell yeah, that'd be cool.
But
or at least to reference them. At least there's a hardcore reference like that. Yeah. That is clearly the Kane that is clearly Jim Carrey's Riddler Kane that's sitting in the background or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, lean all the way into it.
Exactly. Yeah. Chris O'Donnell could show up as Nightwing. That would be.
Oh my God, yes, that would be fantastic.
Wouldn't that be badass, dude? I'd be like, what? I don't know.
I still think the moment I heard someone suggest, man, if they would just freaking do Batman Beyond and get him to play older retired Batman, I'm just like, yes, I'd take my money right now. Dude, I would watch that in a heartbeat.
There will never be more hype for that than there is now. And let's get that done. Let's get Batman Beyond with Michael Keaton as the older Bruce Wayne, please. It doesn't have to be, and that's the thing. It doesn't have to be exactly like the cartoon or the comic. Did they have a comic version of Batman Beyond, or was it just the cartoons?
I think they did make a comic version of it as well, because it did really well as a cartoon. Yeah. So literally it would just be, we need you to dress up for the one scene where you're at the beginning of the movie that shows, all right, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then the rest of the time you can just sit in a chair next to a giant dog. That's all I need. And be snarky as shit.
They could do, or it could. They don't have to stick exactly to that, is what I'm saying. Like,
true, yeah.
He could still be, like, you remember in The Dark Knight Rises how he had to like put all this stuff on so he could get, because he was all screwed up, but he put all this stuff on, then he could go kick ass again. I'm like, maybe they could do some kind of like Batman super suit, like he has in the comics and he has in the Batman versus Superman thing, where older Bruce Wayne could still be kicking some ass. I mean, there's probably ways you could work that into the story.
Oh, we'd have, at the end of the movie, like, he has to come in and pull the new kid out of the fire for one just the last thing. So then the new kid, the new Batman can finish off whoever is the bad guy or whatever. But yeah, we'd have to see him in the suit at least once. So, but yeah, that's some wishful thinking that I'm just like, and now that we've got some new, I say new blood. I mean, technically, it's what's his name that's now doing everything that you just finished doing Guardians.
Yeah.
He's been open, and that's funny. I heard someone else say something like they're like, apparently they even asked him, so since you've worked on both Marvel and DC stuff, is there any chance we could ever get a crossover? And he was just kind of just like, who knows? Like very much like, there's obviously nothing planned right now, but I'm not going to say no.
Right. Well, with this type of thing, you never really know what's going to happen. I mean,
yeah,
I
honestly hope. What I honestly hope is, my personal preference would be is if they don't necessarily have to scrap, even though some of it is really bad, they don't even have to scrap all the stuff that come before it. I would start throwing it into separate universes and just make sure people understand. Because, I don't know, 5 years ago, maybe even sooner than that, the general population would not understand. You could not go to, whoever's just walking down the street and explain to me, oh, yes, there's a new Batman coming out, but this person's playing Batman and has nothing to do with these other movies. That would confuse the hell out of them.
Absolutely.
But we live in a different world now. Like Marvel and they were one of the biggest ones that did it, but Marvel's done this. There's TV shows that have done this. Like the idea of multiple concurrent separate universes is not a foreign, is not something foreign that the normal person can't wrap their head around anymore. And if you just flat out said, well, kind of like that Joker movie that they're making, they're making a sequel to the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie.
Right.
And I don't want it to have ties to anything else. Like I don't need to see Bane in that universe. I don't need to see, everyone else, his rogues gallery in that universe. Just be like, no, this is the separate universe where this is happening and that's what's going on. And that'd be perfectly fine. And if we have 2 or 3 different people playing Batman, I mean, the hell, the comics have done that forever. There's always been like 2 or 3 different versions of Batman at any given time. Dark Knight, the Detective Comics, and then, like I think people have matured enough, and I keep saying general audience, that they can keep it straight and just be like, oh, this one is this one, and not be confused about it, and not be like, well, why going back to the original Batman movies. Oh, so Val Kilmer's now Batman? What happened to what's his name? And it's just, yeah. I think we can handle it.
Well, I'll tell you what you and I can't seem to handle is getting to all the stuff we want to talk about. Because
I guess I'll have to come back for part 3.
We keep running out of time. Real quick
before you wrap up.
Yeah.
The name of the book that I talked about at the beginning is called Empire of Imagination. It's by Michael Whitwer. And it's about Gary Gygax's life. Especially if you do Audible books, I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic listen, especially if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons. All right, sorry.
No, that's good. I'm actually very curious about that. Like just real quick, like how old, if you remember, I don't know if you even remember, but like when was Dungeons and Dragons thought up? Like when was this invented or created?
I want to say, I mean, he had been playing around with the idea for a long time, ever since he was kind of as a kid, but it really started becoming a thing in the early 80s, I believe.
That's interesting.
And then the stuff that happened with the business, on the back end, that's what it's one of the, I'm not giving anything away here, but it's one of those situations where, guy creates company gets extremely big, pulls in someone to help run company, and then gets ousted of their own company.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And, it's just like, well, how the hell did you get ousted from the company that you created? Like it's all this sprang from your ideas. And
it seems like that happens.
It happens.
That happened to, let's see, Steve Jobs. It happened to Bob Ross.
Oh my God. That documentary on Bob Ross and everything else. It's one of those things. It's like, I would love to own a Bob Ross t-shirt and everything else. Cause I thought he did such fantastic things, but it's like, I don't want any of my money going to these people.
Yeah. It's despicable what they did to him. Like if you guys haven't seen the documentary, is it on Netflix? Is that where that is?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Yeah, you need to check that Bob Ross documentary out. That it's terrible what happened to him.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
And this is what happens. Like a lot of times people have the ideas and then somebody else takes them, and prospers from that. This happens so many times. The guy that invented television, there was two different models for the invention of television, and the one that ended up being propagated through RCA, which is the one that we, NTSC, the one we all knew for many, many, many years, was not the original. There was there was another version, and the guy got screwed completely. It just happens. This is what always happens with things. Well, not always, but it's disappointing when it happens. Anyway, I hope you're not disappointed in this show, everybody. We only got to a couple of things. Man, we have to get into now that, are you caught up on Star Wars yet?
Yes. Well, I've got 2, maybe 3 episodes of the Bad Batch, and then I will become 100% caught up on everything.
Okay, so there is more Star Wars discussion that we need to have, especially with the stuff happening over the summer and everything. We'll definitely have to get into that another time. We haven't gotten to discuss anything about toys. The
Legend of Zelda.
the
That's
the new Zelda's coming out. Oh my god! And then we're going to be talking well, I don't want to date this show too much, but that's going to be on Game Rambling, which is the sister show to Retro Rambling, or the brother show to Retro. I don't know. It's
something like that.
It's they're related. Let's just say that.
There you go.
But we'll have to talk about all kinds of this stuff. Plus, we got to see what happens with this writer's strike, because my goodness, that's going to be a problem. Hopefully, it doesn't last too long.
I always, every time, as soon as this started, raising its head, I thought, we should just make everyone go back and rewatch Transformers. What was it? Revenge of the Fallen, and the second season of Heroes. If that doesn't convince you right now that we need to pay writers what they're worth, those two things right there should tell you.
Well, this is a controversial issue, because of the reason for the strike and the discussion about AI. This is a whole thing we could dive into on another episode. So, apparently, just to briefly preview that, there's a big concern about the Hollywood studios trying to use AI to write scripts and write stories and stuff, and then have writers come in and clean them up a little bit. And discussion about like the pay scale for writers, because apparently writers are getting paid jack on the streaming services. So,
yep.
Yeah, lots to talk about there, but we'll have to see next time. Maybe the writer's strike will be resolved by the time we talk next time. We can just talk about the aftermath of it. Maybe not.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But anyway, Eugene, how does everybody find your stuff? You're all over the place on the internet. You have a vast empire. How do people stumble across the Golden City on the Hill?
Well, if you want to check me out on the other podcasts that I do, you can find me at epicallygeeky.com. That's where you can find the shows that I do, to include the Epically Geeky Show, the Marginally Geeky Show, and the Creatively Geeky Show. You can also find my friend Jennifer's show on there, Sustainably Geeky. Not really busy that much on social media for it. I just, whatever. We do the shows to talk and have fun. That's about it. I'm not worried about trying to get a huge audience. If you want to follow my individual wacky adventure, you can find me at Optimus Gene on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But if you want to see what I've really been into, go check out AustinGhostbusters.com, and then look for Austin Ghostbusters on Facebook and Instagram. And because I've been doing a social media push as to all the stuff that we've had going on. I had a really interesting thing. I had a really big thing happen to me the other day. These matrices that I sell, I sold one. I sent one off to a gentleman in Canada. He does a show on YouTube called Ghostbusters News, and I gave him one of the matrices, and he just raved about it. And I was extremely happy that he liked it as much as he did, but he just kind of fawned over it, which was really cool and helped us out with our social media presence. So yeah, that's, if you want, like I said, if you want to see kind of what I've really been working on, go check out Austin Ghostbusters. So
All right, guys, go do that. You've got homework, and we will definitely be talking again in the near future about all kinds of stuff. And thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for supporting the channel and the podcast. Please go check out epicallygeeky.com. They've got a whole bunch of their own stuff and podcasts, and I might show up over there eventually at some point again.
yes.
I'm looking forward to that. So, yep, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, I'm Cyrus.
And I'm Eugene.
There you go. This is Retro Rambling. See y'all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for checking out Retro Rambling, an audio podcast discussion about all things retro. If you enjoyed it, then check back soon for more. See you next time.